Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome to the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm your host, Ben.
And I'm your co-host, Carissa.
Perfect. So everyone, welcome into today's show. Today on the program, we have the entire show dedicated to Friday the 13th. And I can't think of any mascot better than this auspicious day than Ralph Bond himself. And he'll be joining us here in just a moment. He is our science and technology trends correspondent for the show here. And yeah, we have a lot of very different and interesting articles and recent news, recent events that happened since Ralph has last been on. And let's face it, some of it is going to be centered around COVID, and other parts of it are going to be centered around, just everything science and tech related. And the two are definitely mixing a lot lately. So it's a very fun segment, and we highly recommend that you stick around. Now, first things first, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, all the shows, as well as the podcast, our video archives, and the show notes. The show notes are going to be particularly important because Ralph spends all this time picking through the articles, picking up key points. But if you ever want to say, wow, Ralph really did that one dirty, it's okay. You can go and find the article itself and do more research there. But the best way to experience all of this is just by listening, just by watching Computer America. And hey, it's going to be a fun segment. So before we get back to, before we continue on with the show, I always like to ask Carissa, how you doing?
Doing pretty okay. How are you?
Pretty okay as well. It's Friday and it feels like it. It absolutely does. So, but like I said, not just any Friday, but Friday the 13th.
What a glorious day. Happy day.
Carissa, I feel like you'd be a good one to ask this. Why is Friday the 13th so, such a thing?
So I hear it's a religious thing. I hear the Christians didn't like what the pagans were doing with it and then put some spooky things onto it, and everybody's afraid of it.
I've heard that. I've heard it was also like the day that I also heard it was like the day that the Puritans were accusing people of witch trials, and that was the day that they kind of went kind of hog wild and did that kind of thing. Maybe Ralph would have a better idea. Let's go ahead, Carissa, let's bring Ralph on, and then we have a couple things to talk about, and then we'll do that. But everyone, if you're watching the video portion, you can now see him, everyone, the man, the myth, the legend, Ralph Bond. He first joined us when he had a stint over at Intel, and then of course a longer stint over at AutoCAD. Autodesk. Thank you. There we go. Yep. Over Autodesk. And of course, he's been a longtime Computer America correspondent besides, and he's always a fun guy. Everyone, Ralph Bond. Ralph, how you doing?
Hey, great to be here. And I wish I could add more value on Friday the 13th, except these days, every day scares me. It doesn't have to be the 13th anymore, right, guys? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, Ralph, I was totally counting on you to to have the full scoop of Friday the 13th, but
I should have been there for you on that. I apologize.
No, it's cool. And also, fun fact, I was just looking up some things, and there's a whole bunch of phobia. And actually, wow, of all things, I was reading the Wikipedia article. According to the Stress Management Center and Phobia Institute in Asheville, North Carolina, of all places, 21 million people in the United States are affected by a fear of this day, making it the most feared day and date in history. 17 to 21 million people fear Friday the 13th simply because it is known as a bad day. So, fun fact, everyone.
Well, there you go.
Well, silly them. They're missing out on all the fun. So
there you go.
That's their problem.
And one more fun fact about this, and then we'll move on because, hey, it is the day. It is the day. But in Greek and Hispanic culture, they actually have a fear of Tuesday the 13th, not just Friday the 13th.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, fun fact. So, okay, everyone, all of that aside, and Ralph, just real quick, if you'd like to introduce yourself and, kind of what it is that you try to accomplish here with, of course, being Computer America Science and Technology Trends correspondent, what you aim for with all the different articles that you pull for us.
Yeah, right. Well, as you were alluding to, I had a long career in high tech, most notably about 14 years, almost 14 years with Intel, and then about 10 years or so with Autodesk, the AutoCAD guys, until I semi-retired a few years back. And what I try to do each month with this segment is look for fun, diverse science and technology stories. Some of them are kind of futuristic, trend-oriented, as you alluded to, and just bring it together. And we put together the show notes for you folks so that you can get the links, pictures, and the notes that I actually use to kind of recap the stories. I don't read the stories verbatim. I kind of extract and sometimes add my own commentary into it. But all the sources are there for you if you come out to computeramerica.com and get today's show notes.
Perfect. And yep, they will be up after today's program. At first, you can only see them here. I always do that just in case we, want to add more information during the show. And,
good idea.
I always found it strange whenever we post the show notes kind of before the show. It's like, hey, we can see into the future. Here's the only thing we're going to talk about. And that wasn't ever the case. So, so the show notes. And hey, of course, if you're watching the video portion, you can, of course, see it there as well. So, okay, everyone, sit back, relax, and let's go ahead and get started. But actually, before we even get started with story number 1, Ralph, before the show, you came on talking about a product that Carissa and I had actually mentioned on the show yesterday. We had another correspondent, Mr. Mike Cermak. I don't know if you ever had the pleasure of working with him here on the show, but we found that one, and it was a very strange product, to say the least. So why don't you go ahead and introduce it, and I'll kind of show it here on the video portion.
Well, yeah, actually, you guys, since you got the story yesterday, can far better do it than I. I just was eating lunch today and looking at the newspaper, and there was an AP story about this product. And basically, in a nutshell, the idea is, what if you could have a pair of headphones on without having the headphones on? What if you could hear music coming from your PC or whatever the system may be, and hear it in your head, and nobody else around you hears it, as if you were wearing really good insulated headphones? And I just went, what? And that's all I know at this point, because I was talking to you folks before we started the show, and you mentioned, oh, guess what? We talked to these people yesterday. So my main thing that I would love to know is, how in the world does this work? How is it possible to have this device beaming sound into my head without other people hearing it, without me having to have some kind of implant in my brain? I mean, what is this? Or some kind of device in my bud thing? And what? I don't get it. I love it, but I don't get it.
Carissa, I'll let you take a first stab at it, and then I will fill in the blanks as best I can.
That's kind of the gist we got from it yesterday too. It was like, how the heck does this thing work? But I'm as frankly as confused as you are. It should, seemingly it does beam the sound somehow to your head, but I still can't wrap my mind around how, if there's more than one person in the room, how does it react? How does it track your head? How far does the distance of this thing go? What's the range? It seems like magic to me.
Yeah, I agree. I just had a thought, guys. Maybe this has an answer. I imagine in your mind some kind of focused audio or sonic tunnel from the device to your head. And so it's the kind of thing where, I don't know how it would work, but if you somehow could insert your head in between the device and the recipient, right, and you could move your head in here, you would also hear it. But if you move away, you don't. I mean, I don't know. I'm just like, what?
So the impression that I'm getting, of course, if you're watching the video portion, this is their demonstration video. All of it, of course, because you're dealing with sound waves and you can't exactly show a video demonstration of that. Although I wish that they would, by even something as simple as maybe taking your phone and by looking at it, they say that they create sound vortexes. Near a person's ear. So not inside the ear, not inside your brain. They're essentially little masses of sound. And if anyone out there has messed with audio before, same reason why maybe somewhere in your house you have that one room that no one can hear people yelling for you. It's like, hey, come to dinner. It's like, oh, I didn't hear you, or I didn't hear the doorbell. Sound operates in very different ways. And Ralph, have you ever messed with anything like a sound bar? I know that we drew that conclusion before the show, but a
little
bar?
bit, yeah, just a little bit.
So Craig actually sent himself out there to the nice folks over at Brookstone, to the headquarters of Brookstone and Bose. They were working together on the first soundbar, and back then it was a laboratory setting. It was a large room, and they could essentially say, point to anywhere in the room and we can make it sound like the sound is coming from there. And they had this speaker, and he would point to a random corner, and they would fiddle with some knobs, turn the speakers, change the power, and do that kind of thing. And after enough tinkering, they were able to make it sound like, project the sound to any corner, any wall, any surface, and it made it sound like it was coming from over there. So being able to project sound is not really all that new. What's new here is being able to project the sound a limited distance. They're claiming, about the distance of sitting at a steering wheel and, your car speakers to you, or sitting at a computer and your computer to you.
Right.
Not across the universe like Carissa seems to think, but yeah, it would track you using motion sensor and infrared, which are built into the speaker here, and it locks onto a person, and then it projects the sound to either side of your head, supposedly, assuming you have ears, to either ear. And think about if someone maybe leaned really close into your ear, they would hear the exact same thing you're hearing. And then if they kind of move away, it sounds a little bit different, and it would be less noticeable. To the extent that they're saying, I have no idea. This is something that you definitely have to try before you buy. But they're claiming that they can project music or sound directly to a person in a defined space, and not just and not just fill a car or fill a room or fill a plane. Just pinpoint it, and that's the change.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Now, whether or not that works, again, you mentioned Associated Press.
That.
I trust Associated Press. The AP does a really fantastic reporting on so many ways, but also a lot of the video demonstrations and a lot of the material that they kind of show here on the website, it seems not snake oil, but one step above it, just kind of vaporware. But
we'll find out.
Yeah, maybe at some point these will be sold, somewhere. So yeah, that was that whole article. Thank you for bringing that up. That was not included in the show notes, but yeah, that was certainly different, and it did catch our attention as well. Now, with that being said, everyone, sit back, relax. Let's go ahead and now get started with Ralph. Story number 1.
Yes. Okay. We're going to do a couple of COVID-19 stories. It's sort of obligatory these days, but they're kind of fun story. Well, fun. Is anything fun about this? But anyway, what I mean to say is very interesting stories that, because of so much noise in our news cycles these last month or so, got lost in the change. So the first one, I picked up the story from the BBC. Headline was India's new paper-based COVID-19 test could be a game changer. And the first line here, it'll immediately kind of put this in context. So wouldn't it be great if we had a test for COVID-19 that's as easy and reports results as fast as today's home pregnancy tests? So I think everybody knows what we're referring to with the home pregnancy tests, right? That's what a team of scientists in India has developed. An inexpensive paper-based test for coronavirus inspired by paper strip pregnancy tests that could give fast results. Now, this new Feluda, that's Feluda test, is named after a famous Indian fictional detective character. That's kind of funny. And is based on a gene editing technology called CRISPR, which I know you folks are familiar with. When used as a diagnostic tool, CRISPR technology can determine if the gene carrying the signature of the coronavirus is present in a sample taken from a nasal swab. So a team of scientists in India working on this project estimate the new test would return results in under an hour and cost about $6.75 US each. That's pretty great. And they found the new test had, they claim, 98% accuracy. And if successful, the Faluda test could be the world's first paper-based COVID-19 test available globally. Now, reality check. However, the Indian team is not alone. Other researchers around the world are also exploring the development of a simple paper-based COVID-19 test. So pretty cool, pretty encouraging. And testing, of course, and tracking is so important. The vaccine, I love it. It's great. I'm glad it's coming. But in the meantime, we've got to be able to test and track.
Yeah, it's crazy that here we are 10 months or so later, and you think that this would be something that's like, oh, COVID, we're all well aware of it, and we have a handle on it. A lot of places are experiencing that second wave that they're calling it. A lot of places in Europe and America specifically, I think we're still on our first tsunami. It's definitely going around. And what I like about this test, that so many other of these cheap, fast tests, like one thing that they all do wrong is that they have like a 75% accuracy rate, 50% accuracy rate, and it's almost like they're accurate to a point, but they're also not even useful at those kind of percentages. This one that you found that, Ralph, I didn't even hear about, 96% sensitivity, like they say in the article, so it will pick up almost everyone, 19 out of 20 people with COVID, and then it will be 98% accurate. So of those that are picked up, 98 out of 100 will be accurately diagnosed. So accuracy and detection are both important. And they nailed it. Good.
Yeah, and that's something, and ease of use, guys, and low cost, and all that, and in a leveraging. I think what's so clever is saying being inspired by paper pregnancy tests. It's a great kind of connection in your head. Hey, what if we could do this? And I think it's a very cool story.
Yeah, and India in particular, I think they are the most populous country in the world, even above China. I think are they at 1.4 or 1.5 billion?
Good trivia question. I think you're right.
So the population of India, I mean, like we have trouble with 300 some odd million Americans. I can't imagine 5 times the population. In about the same space, like even like smaller space, because India, is large, but not that large. They have so many people and they need so many tests, and plastic just won't do. So this was a very, very good one.
Socially distanced there too,
Oh, impossible.
So you just have to track where it's going and what communities it's in. So there you go. I like that one, Ralph. I know that, like you said, COVID, so last year, but no, it's this year. It's still this year. So,
I wish.
This year has seemed so long. It's like 3 years in one.
Lord.
It's crazy.
No kidding.
Now, well, hey, the holidays are coming up, everyone. We're going to have fun. Now, story number 2.
There you go.
Talk about this. And I'm sorry. I see a ferret. I immediately think about minks, and I get sad. But yeah, please go ahead.
Yes. Well, yes, and it has a funny headline, but it's pretty interesting. And forewarn everybody, this is going to get a little geeky. Okay, so bear with us. But the headlines comes from the New York Times, by the way. Headline: a nasal spray prevented COVID-19 infection in ferrets. A study finds. And you might think, well, that's nice for the ferrets, but what about us? But
exactly.
But hold on a second. We'll get to explain all of this. So here we go. And again, bear with me. This is geeky. We'll take it nice and slow here so it sinks in. A nasal spray that blocks the absorption of coronavirus completely protected ferrets it was tested on, according to a small study released earlier this month by an international team of scientists. If the spray, which the scientists described as non-toxic and stable, is proved to work in humans, it could provide a new way to fight the pandemic with a daily spritz up the nose, acting like a vaccine. Not a vaccine, but acting like a vaccine. The work has been underway for months by scientists from Columbia University Medical Center in New York, Erasmus Medical Center in the Netherlands, Cornell University, and the University of Campania, I hope I'm saying that right, in Italy. Wow, how cool is this? An international team. You gotta love it. All right, so here we go. How does this work? The spray, which attacks the virus directly, contains a lipopeptide, a cholesterol particle linked to a chain of amino acids, the building blocks of proteins. You might say, proteins? What the hell does that have to do with coronavirus? Bear with me. This particular lipopeptide exactly matches a stretch of amino acids in the spike protein of the coronavirus, which the pathogen, again, coronavirus, uses to attach to a human airway or lung cell. So the spike protein, we've all seen the pictures of the coronavirus, right? The ball with all those weirdo spiky things that look like nasty broccoli spears sticking out, right? That's the spike protein. That's how this nasty virus attaches to the victim. So before a virus such as COVID-19 can inject its ribonucleic acid or RNA into a cell, the spike must effectively unzip, exposing 2 chains of amino acids in order to fuse with the cell wall. Holy smokers, folks. I apologize. I know this is very bio-geeky, but that's the game here. As the spike unzips back up to complete the process, the lipopeptide in the spray inserts itself, latching onto one of the spike's amino acid chains and preventing the virus from attaching. So bottom line, this nasal spray thwarts the spike protein on the coronavirus from being able to attach. Yay. So it basically just says,
it's like a tire boot.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, sorry, Charlie, you ain't going anywhere. And I just thought this was so interesting. Again, geeky, but very, very interesting. And I love the fact it's an international research effort. Gotta love that.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
And those ferrets have never been safer. So
If only we had it before the Mig thing happened.
Well, the only thing that's sad is they obviously must have induced the coronavirus into those cute little ferrets.
I don't want to think about that.
Yes, let's pass on that.
I have not heard of a need for ferret respirators, so I'm hoping that that all of them recovered with mild symptoms. That's what we can assume from that. Yes. They're suspiciously like human. Respiratory systems are going to benefit everyone. So, okay. Yes. Story number 2, and and Ralph, I feel like all these stories that you're kind of outlining with coronavirus, at some point, it's all going to accumulate into a like some kind of victory lap that we have a cure for COVID. So it will happen. I think so. It will happen. Yes. Now, moving on to that, this is a completely different one, and one I've seen in a lot of different forms, but I'm excited to see what this new one is. Story number 3.
Number 3. Okay. Lord knows, this past year, one of the wonderful things about 2020 were the forest fires, right? Now, I'm in Oregon, so I'm in the West Coast, and that's been just a monstrously huge thing for all of us. But this story comes from Engadget, a story by Andrew Tarantola. Headline, Dendra Systems, seed-spitting drones rebuild forests from the air. And you're right, this is a concept that's not unique or new, but there's a little kind of fun twist to what these guys are doing. So, with all the terrible forest fires this year, as I mentioned before, here's a technology that can help us replant and recover more quickly. There's an outfit in the United Kingdom called Dendra System that has modified autonomous aerial drones to help quickly replant trees in devastated forests. Now, these modified drones include an artificial intelligence-based visual system to spot where new trees are needed. Wow, think about that. An artificial intelligence-based algorithm for establishing seeding patterns. So not only do you have AI-based visual system to say, oh, this is where it needs to be, it also says, and for this particular situation, based on its machine learning, I need to do this kind of seeding pattern. Wow. And get this, a custom-built seed spitter that fires fires, pardon me, marble-sized pods packed with baby trees and all the nutrients they need to start growing.
That's cute.
Isn't that cool? Since the company's founding in 2014, it has completed nearly 40 replanting projects in 11 nations around the world. So this is an established technology, but I just thought with the story of the forest fires, it's so encouraging to see drones once again being so creatively used, and clever that they're taking existing commercial grade drones and just adding these modifications to make this system work.
Seems a lot more functional than taking a helicopter and a machine gun and shooting seeds into the ground.
Well, yes. And Carissa, to your point, so much faster and easier than all those well-intended, wonderful men and women with their little satchels full of baby seedlings climbing about all these rugged terrains and, digging a hole and sticking the plant and digging a hole and sticking the plant. I mean, I think that's still a great thing to do, but in terms of the vastness of the destruction and the need to quickly replant as best you can, this may really prove to be a godsend. So we'll see.
Yeah, and regrowing these trees, and especially in a lot of places, I'm not sure if people have been keeping up on this. Obviously, climate change gets the full thing, and I think a lot of people are very aware that there are some challenges facing this planet, but there have been some amazing efforts. This kind of thing is going to help a lot. I will say that, we were just talking about India with their whole paper COVID tests and things like that. They currently hold the record. India, a particular province or state within India, they had 1 million people in India planted 220 million trees in a single day.
Gosh.
In a single day. So they just did that August 9th, 2019. That was just last year. China has been doing amazing things with helping with the desertification in the Middle East, and of course is kind of sweeping towards China, but still they're planting entire millions of hectares of trees in China to stop the deserts from spreading. This, on the other hand, I love the artificial intelligence because, that gets rolled into everything. Instead of just, randomly doing it or a big flat pattern, being able to target may mean the difference between trees that actually take and those that don't.
Yes, that's exactly correct. Yeah.
And Ralph, you're from Oregon, obviously. I think anyone who hears your voice knows that very plainly. You're very Oregonian. That is obvious. I will say that obviously with Northern California and there's a rainforest in Oregon, Washington. Like that is technically a rainforest area, right?
Well, yes, and we had terrible fires and so forth, and some of them, bizarre as it may seem, are still burning.
Yeah.
But they're getting out now. Thank God.
I totally believe it, and of course, the only thing I want to say was that these new saplings and these new small trees, they're important, and they're going to help with everything. But at the same time, the great redwoods and the old growth forest and the old growth rainforest, simply replanting trees is like step one to actually get the benefits of planting these trees. You have to let them grow to maturity. You have to let, the ecosystem come back. It's not just about a tree being 8 feet tall and global warming is over.
Right.
It's about entire ecosystems, coming back to life.
Yes.
So
exactly right.
But hey, this is step one of that amazing process, and shooting marble seeds into the ground. I love it. So
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's story number 3. And again, if you're watching the video portion, you could see the drone there doing that. It was very, very nice. And hey, one person with a drone could do the work of, hundreds of people.
Hundreds and hundreds, yes.
That's perfect. Story number 4. This one is, hey, speaking of fires, let's talk about this.
More fires for you this time. Maybe not so much for forest fires, but anyway, picked up this story. There's actually a couple of resources and citations and videos here in the show notes for you to check out. But this came from a publication called Latest, which is a play on Los Angeles, LA latest news, latest.com. Headline: Meet the newest rookie on the LA or Los Angeles Fire Department, a firefighting robot. And it's very cool. If you have the show notes, you can see that thing looks like a little tank, but we got video links for you. Also, CBS News in Los Angeles did this video segment on this. So picture a robot, as I said before, that looks like a mini army tank with a hose nozzle connected to a high-capacity firefighting water hoses. The Los Angeles Fire Department just added one to their fleet. It comes from robotics manufacturer Thermite, based in the state of Maine. And I want to make an aside here for a moment. There are other manufacturers in China and so forth that have a very similar product. So I want to be honest and fair, say Thermite in Maine is not the only company in the world with this kind of concept. But this one is pretty cool. I love it. It's made in the United States and was adopted by the LAPD and others as well. So going on now, fabricated using durable construction grade components, it can withstand exposure to extreme elements too dangerous for human firefighters to deal with.
It's adorable.
It is cute, isn't it? And you can see the video. I love it. Thanks for showing the video there.
Yeah,
and by the way, and get this, guys, it's the same innovative robot the Paris Fire Department used to battle the Notre Dame Cathedral fire. Remember how horrible that was.
I'm glad they have one on hand. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Well,
Ralph, just real quick before you go on to the next point, one thing that your bullet point here, fabricated using durable construction grade components. I know that obviously you worked with the construction division of Autodesk. I don't know if you ever, kind of dealt with the machinery or, kind of what the people use to actually build on work sites. But in your mind, what does construction grade actually mean? Because, we have like military grade, we have consumer grade. What do you think it means that something is construction grade? Is that tough?
Yeah. I can't claim to be a super expert on this, but if you think about, let's go to consumer products and let's go to Home Depot, for example, and let's go to the tool section. You're going to have kind of hobbyist grade, such and so grade, and then you're going to have professional contractor grade. That means the materials are hardened, they're exceptionally durable, they're going to cost more, of course, for all you're paying for that durability. But in a nutshell, construction grade means this is stuff that's meant for daily professional constant use, as opposed to a product that's a more of a consumer type product that's made for occasional use. So I'm super simplifying it, but that's it in a nutshell, since my daughter works for a construction company and so does her husband and my son-in-law. So you kind of get the gist of what that means. When you think about the giant backhoes or dump trucks or something that are out there in construction sites, they're far and away
they're not
heavier, stronger, all that kind of stuff as compared to your consumer automobile that's just used for commuting. So kind of some comparisons there.
All right, I'm sorry. So go on.
No worries. So it goes on here, says the firefighting robot is remotely operated by a controller that provides high definition and infrared video. That makes sense with fire, right? In real time, allowing the machine to traverse hazardous terrain with maximum control. And get this, the robot has the power to push cars and pickup trucks from its path and the agility to climb stairs. Think of how important that is. In addition to fighting fires, it could also provide reconnaissance and situational awareness in high-risk areas. And here are a few key features that are kind of fun. A water nozzle that can handle 2,500 gallons of water per minute. Wow. An 8,000-pound winch. A water shooting range of, ready for this, 1,640 feet. What? And up to a 20-hour runtime without refueling. It's got a diesel engine that's pretty remarkable.
Wow.
And it is all wow. And here you go. Okay, time for a little bit of a reality check here. The cost of each one of these little tanks is $278,000 each. But friends,
that's worth it.
Yes, exactly right, Carissa. What is the life of one firefighter is infinitesimally there is no money limit, in my opinion. So this is exciting. Again, this company is not unique. There are other companies around the world with a similar product, but I just think it's really cool to see our firefighting departments, particularly not so much that this would be used in a forest fire, but rather in urban fires, right? Buildings and that kind of stuff. How great it is to have something like this.
Let's see, how much does a finish talking right as I was about to type something. Here we go, real quick. Fire truck. So, a full blown fire truck. And obviously this does not replace a fire truck. This is kind of serving a different job. Right. But still, to put, kind of a number to other equipment that that firemen use or fire people use, people of the fire is, anywhere starts at about $300,000 to $400,000 for the smaller ones. And then of course with extra ladders, the larger ones can be as much as $1.5 million. So, yeah. And I'm sure that you said it here, in addition to fighting fires, they also mentioned you could do things like the ability to climb stairs. And I remember Chris and I, we did the story. We actually talked about this like last 2 weeks or something like that. But when we talked about it, they were mentioning California because so many of these are, burning mountains and hillsides and, kind of places that are very, very difficult to traverse. Something like this, they could actually haul those, 80-pound hoses up a hill for firefighters so they don't have to do it and do it much more effectively. So,
Yeah, good point.
And Ralph, we've been talking about robotics for a long time. I'll be honest with you. I can't, I will not buy one of these, but $278,000, it's not that much compared to what we used to think of, robotics and what it used to cost.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. So there you go. Story number 4, story number 5. And hey, speaking of which, hits a little close to home. Let's talk about renewable energy.
Yes. And this may seem on the surface because I live in Hillsboro, Oregon, and friends, Hillsboro, Oregon is about, 17 or so miles west of Portland, Oregon. And Hillsboro, Oregon is technologically famous as Intel Corporation's largest installation of fabricating plants and research and employees and so forth. About 20,000 people, I think, is the last count it had. So it's a very high-tech community. That's why I'm here. I came here from California with Intel, many, 27, 28 years ago. Anyway, long story short here's the headline. Hillsboro, Oregon is the first in the United States to install a new form of renewable energy. Came from the city of Hillsboro website and their press release and all this good stuff. And it's a technology I had not known about before, which is really fun. Not that I know everything, certainly not. But here's the story. The city of Hillsboro, the Energy Trust of Oregon, Portland General Electric, and a company called In-Pipe Energy have jointly announced the completion of the Hillsboro In-Pipe hydroelectric project. It's the first renewable energy project featuring a new smart water and micro hydro system that generates electricity. And here's the part that was so interesting to me: by harvesting the heat generated by excess pressure from a city water pipeline. And I went, but stand by. Okay, here's a bit of background to help explain what this system does. Throughout the world, water agencies use control valves to manage pressure in their water pipelines. And I said, well, sure, of course, that makes sense. I'm not surprised. Here's the part that blew my mind. These control valves normally burn off excess pressure as heat. So these control valves, while they're doing their job of maintaining the proper pressure for a city water system, right, are generating heat. I'd like to know more about the physics of why that's happening, but take it at face value. So In-Pipe, that's INPIPE, In-Pipe, all one word, In-Pipe Energy's pressure recovery system turns the heat generated by this excess pressure that would otherwise be wasted into a new source of carbon-free electricity. This new technology at its first installation in Hillsboro, Oregon, will generate up to 200,000 kilowatt hours or more of electricity per year. And this is a little local yokel nod here. This electricity will help power the lighting, electrical vehicle charging stations, and concessions at the Ron Tonkin baseball and Hillsboro stadiums. We have a little minor league baseball team here. And every year going forward, the clean energy produced by this first installation will reduce more than 162,000 pounds of carbon annually. That equates to over 240,000 driven miles off the road. So it just, again, it may sound self-serving because I live in Hillsboro, Oregon, but I think it's kind of got some neat implications for all the rest of our country. Let's get more of these things going so we can get energy off otherwise wasted heat from these pressure valves. Wow.
And of course, Ralph, I think you're much more qualified to talk about like electrical engineering and stuff like that. But anytime that you generate electricity, you're going to get that waste, that heat, that kind of bleeds off of it, and that happens. We had a German thermal system, a geothermal system here in the house, and that generated heat by just forcing the water up, that movement, that pressure would heat the water itself and get it to a certain temperature.
Wow.
So these are some of my favorite innovations because it's not like you have to build entire new hydroelectric dams, which could take, 50 years to decommission, deconstruct, reconstruct, that kind of thing. But adapting and retrofitting currently in operation stuff for, to be more efficient, that's what's really going to make a difference today. So I do like this
cool.
one.
And the picture in the story, friends, when you come out, if you're listening to us and not able to see, come out and get the show notes, because you can see we're not talking about a massive installation or anything here. This is pretty modest, to say the least.
Smaller than a parking lot.
Well, gosh, yeah. I mean, I'm so encouraged. I just think
angle.
it's super cool. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And I just saw somewhere in this little video here that they said that, a lot of the heat comes from friction of the water forcing its way through the pipes and, all the pressure and all that kind of stuff. So, just being turning something that was a waste into something actually useful. I mean, this is the same thing that's going to turn desalination plants into something actually worth talking about. So, a lot of the same stuff.
Excellent point.
So, okay, story number 5. Story number 6, MIT, and hey, speaking of desalination plants, this is actually drinking water. It's very important for a lot of people. You don't know how much you miss it until you don't have any. Story number 6 looks like they're going to solve a little bit of this.
This is great. God bless Massachusetts Institute of Technology. It never fails to amaze me. So this comes from the news website for MIT. Headline: MIT solar-powered system extracts drinkable water from dry air. What? Okay, this is pretty cool. There's a video. There's some links here for you. And of course, if you're online and seeing the show notes, you can see the pictures. But here we go. Researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology have developed a system that can extract drinkable water directly from the air, even in very dry regions, using heat from the sun. Holy smokers, think of how all over the globe, arid climates where people desperately need water, right? The goal is to create a practical water source for remote regions with limited access to water. Here's how it works. The main component of the system looks like a solar panel. Inside the panel is an innovative absorbent material which collects water moisture from the air at night. When the panel is heated by sunlight during the day, the difference in the temperature between the heated top of the absorbent inner layer and the shaded underside releases the water vapor. The water vapor then gets condensed on a collection plate. The new system can work at humidity levels as low as 20% and requires no energy input other than sunlight to work. And this new water generating panels, they could be combined with solar panels to provide a complete water and power solution. Gotta love it.
I'm wondering what the humidity of some of the more extreme places where there is no water, like in the middle of a desert, because I know that 0 would probably be very unrealistic as far as humidity goes. But 20% obviously low, and then other places that Ralph, how many times have we covered things like natural disasters or hurricanes or places that normally have lots of water and maybe are damaged by too much water, but drinkable water is at a premium, is very, very scarce. Maybe being able to put places like these that have, 100% humidity, they would generate a lot of water, and that would be helpful for even places that, that just need water and, drinkable water.
I don't know. Sorry.
Go ahead, Carissa, please.
I was going to say, I don't know if I can even find the articles, but I've seen something like this other places around the internet. Like I was reading one about some man in Africa who made something like this, whatever he had there. So I'm just kind of wondering how this differs from the different models that other people have made, because I've seen things like this before. So this is super cool. And I just wonder how much more efficient it is compared to
efficiency.
Yeah, and that's a great question. And the other thing that I like about this concept, which may relate to the other things, Carissa, you're alluding to as well, there's no treatment needed to the moisture that's condensed on the collection plate. We're not having to treat it. It's not having to go through some additional steps or something to be drinkable. It just comes out as
rainwater.
Yeah. Well, it's remarkable in that regard, I think. So it's pretty cool.
Right. And like honestly, this isn't too different from rainwater, but the point is that you can't always expect the rain, and in some places you're just never going to get the rain. So, in my head, I can imagine larger version of these with solar panels in the middle of, let's say, a desert, and you suddenly have like a desert way station that you get electricity, you get water. It's naturally kind of self-sustaining. Again, all you need is sunlight. And people can just kind of go. It's almost like man-made oases. It's possible, and we can do it. So I like that one a lot. Holy crap, Ralph, that's scary. Halloween was 2 weeks ago. What are you doing to me? That's
number 7, I presume.
Oh, my bad.
I sent you that one days ago. So
yeah.
Get to it.
I'm sorry. I was so scared, but then I read Disney and then I feel comforted. So,
yes,
Ralph, story number 7.
All is okay. Story number 7 from The Verge. A great publication, of course. Headline: Disney's new skinless prototype robot. I modified the headline a little bit. Can blink like a human and more. And this thing, when you see the video, I mean, I'm sorry, it is ultra
horrifying.
But it's kind of wonderful too. I mean, it's just
so great and terrible.
Cool. Yeah. Well, here's the story. Disney Research's new prototype humanoid robot marks a major advancement in the creation of super realistic robots. And it's so freaky cool. You must see the video to believe it, as you are now able to see. I mean, this thing's weird. Weird cool. The robot was developed by engineers at Disney's research division, Walt Disney Imagineering, the University of Illinois, and the California Institute of Technology. What a cool team of researchers. The new robot can imitate sensitive facial movements, specifically blinking and subtle head movements.
Oh, his eye contact's creepy. I hate
Is that something else? So, picture a white plastic skull, which in final form would be covered with lifelike artificial skin and
one would
have hair on, all that good stuff. That has a stunningly realistic mouth. The mouth is really pretty amazing too. And
does he have a tongue in there?
Oh, well, unfortunately, it doesn't show it talking, but I'm sure they'll be able to do that too. So a stunningly realistic mouth and 2 moving eyes and eyelids. Equally important. Its eye movements shift from direct eye contact to the rapid eye movements and glancing away we humans do in conversation with each other, as you can see in the video. And I love this. And a sensor in its chest alerts the robot when to turn and face a person in front of it. Its chest also moves slightly up and down to mimic breathing. And it's not hard to imagine how Disney might use this technology, for example, for animatronic characters at its theme parks. And then the rest is all sci-fi and freaky, and you kind of go off and you think, wow, where are we going? Are we going to Westworld now? I mean, whoa.
Well, we have talked about what's happening in Japan at great lengths because it's always very weird. Yes. Ralph, you recall that they were building robotic, what do you call them? Not bellhops, robotic clerks and people behind the counter.
That's correct, and caretakers for elderly, for homebound people and so forth. And actually, the article talks a little bit in passing about what if in the future you had robots that look so human-like that it could be either, well, it depends on how you feel about it, either more terrifying or more comforting. Robots for childcare. I know it gets weird, but I mean, it is interesting. The corner we're turning, technologically speaking, now in robotics is, oh wow.
And then, of course, just real quick, Ralph, if you wouldn't mind explaining what Uncanny Valley is, which is why Chris and myself and you all had the same reaction to this thing. Just real quick, Uncanny Valley. How does that play a role in all this?
I'm sorry, Uncanny Valley?
Yes.
Oh.
I thought you knew. I thought you knew what Uncanny Valley was.
No, you got me there, buddy.
Okay. Okay. So Uncanny Valley, for those of you who are literature buffs, this is Uncanny Valley is Valley of the Dolls. Yes, and it's essentially, I have not read that book, but it's about dolls that are almost are almost lifelike, but are not quite, and therefore the Valley of the Dolls is full of these entities that are not quite human.
I get it.
And because they're not quite human, people are repulsed by them, and it's crossing the Uncanny Valley. You are able to, hey, again, that's why it looks so close to human, but something is just about off that you have that reaction that's like, this isn't right. It's just not right. And that sense of uneasiness, like you said, Ralph, if there were hair, skin, all that kind of stuff, the artists, kind of made it look human, you'd go, wow, that's amazing. That's perfect. But then it's why things never look exactly perfect, little subtleties. So Uncanny Valley is the reason why you're having this reaction that is just not right. And this gets really close to it. They're getting very close to being full, imitating full-fledged humans.
Well, yeah, and I couldn't help but think of the Stepford Wives.
Yes, exactly.
Hey, let's modernize this. We need Stepford Husbands. Wouldn't that be a good movie?
Good. Finally, I get a husband, get something done around the house here. That's good. Finally.
It looks good doing it.
Okay, so there's that. Story number 7. Ralph, and again, that's Disney. I can imagine these eventually taking the place of kind of tellers and amusement parks and places like that. I know that we talk about job displacement all the time, but being able to, I guess, kind of build your characters and put them around your theme park, may just be a much better alternative. I use the word better loosely. Better alternative for kind of theme parks that you're supposed to have that same experience over and over again instead of training actors to play the character. But hey, I don't know. It's something worth trying. It's better than Zoltar. Everyone out there listening, it looks better than Zoltar. So Zoltar, Zoltaire.
Yes. Zoltaire.
I think it's Zoltaire or Zoltar, but yeah, the genie and okay.
Yeah.
So story number 7. So we're gonna do story number 8, but Carissa, you pick a story, I'll pick a story, and we're gonna jump around because, like Ralph predicted, we never get to them all. So let's do story number 8.
The thing about that is I've been trying to talk to you in the chat. I still need access to the Google Doc.
Wow, you've been following along with everyone else. So there we go.
Oh gosh, yeah.
All right, Ralph. So please go ahead, and then we'll pick around. So
there you go. And the rest of the stories, folks.
I trust you guys.
Bonus homework for you, if you want to call it that. Fun homework, I hope. Anyway, story 8. This is something that's so important that just because of our news cycle with the election and coronavirus and everything, I thought it was an important story that really was way under the radar of awareness. So headline is 8 nations sign NASA's Artemis Accords that guide cooperative exploration of the moon. Picked this up at CNN. It was covered by many, many other outlets. And I just thought this was kind of an inspiring story. So here's a news bit from last month, as I mentioned before, that did not get the attention it deserves. The nations of Australia, Canada, Italy, Japan, Luxembourg, the United Arab Emirates, the United Kingdom, and of course the United States of America signed on as founding members of NASA's Artemis Accords. The Artemis Accords aim to unite partners to explore the moon and establish vital principles for a safe, peaceful, and prosperous future in space for all of humanity. And according to the NASA press announcement, Artemis will be the broadest and most diverse international human space exploration program in history. So I thought we needed some nice, cooperative, happy international news for a change.
And there's that story, and then there's a story of Space Force, which is an extension of our own military. So you can see how certain organizations treat this differently. I got to say, Ralph, that a fun aside, I will say that I went on vacation the last week of October. I actually went to the Houston Space Center. It was
fun.
Yeah, it was actually very fun, and they have like the full-fledged, like my favorite, I'm sure that it's the same for everyone. They have the full-fledged Saturn V rocket, on display, ready to go, and that thing is just amazing to look at. So
it's
complete aside. Have you ever been there? You act like you've been, or you're talking like you've been there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course the in Florida, Cape Canaveral and so forth. Yes. Oh, marvelous.
Yeah, it's highly recommended. Tell them I sent you, and they're gonna go, who, what, why? So
they won't let you in.
Definitely, and with you can, but you have to bribe them like $40 at the door. But with that being said, okay, so Carissa, you can still look for a story, but I think I'm going to.
I found one.
Perfect. Carissa, you go first, please.
I want to do 13.
13. Okay. I'm scrolling as we speak here. Stand by. 12, 12. Okay, 12. 13.
Spoiler alert.
Oh,
If snakes, yes.
yes, yes. Carissa, right on target. This is really interesting. Headline from CNN: Snake venom can now be made in the lab, and that could save many lives. And it, bear with me. It takes a little while to explain this. So, here's the scoop. It has been estimated that 7,000 to 8,000 people per year receive venomous bites in the United States, and about 5 of those people die. So it's not a huge, massive, terrible problem exactly, but it's an issue. Elsewhere in the world, though, it's a really much more serious issue. So if you're unlucky enough to have a poisonous snake sink its fangs into you, your best hope is an anti-venom, which has been made in the same way since Victorian times. Oh. That involves milking snake venom by hand and injecting it into horses or other animals in small doses to evoke an immune response. The animal's blood is drawn and purified to obtain the antibodies that act against the venom. What a laborious process, and mean to the animals like precious horsies, right? Now, finally... Yeah. And snakes too. Now, finally, scientists are applying stem cell research and genome mapping to this long ignored field of research. They hope it will bring antivenom production to the 21st century and ultimately save thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of lives each year. Researchers in the Netherlands have created venom-producing glands from the Cape coral snake and 8 other snake species in the lab using stem cells. Wow. The toxins produced by the miniature 3D replicas of snake glands are all but identical to the snake's venom, the team announced this month. In a parallel breakthrough, scientists in India have sequenced the genome of the Indian cobra, one of the country's big 4 snakes that are responsible for most of 50,000 snake bite deaths. 50,000 snake bite deaths in India each year.
Yeah.
So, wow, this idea of using this advanced technology to, create in the lab a snake venom, which in turn allows you to create these antibodies so much faster. Yuckity. Wow. I mean, this is profoundly important for saving many, many lives.
Yep. And yeah, that's, I had actually heard about that. I thought they were much closer to that, but I guess they're even closer nowadays to producing it fully in the lab. And the best part, again, is that it works just like, because it is snake antivenom, it works just as effectively. So that is definitely the great part. So Ralph, I was looking through a lot of these stories. Unfortunately, they're all awesome. So ladies and gentlemen, you can go out there and check that out. I knew about story number 10 as well, but the one I wanted to kind of highlight, I don't think we'll have time, but we can try. Right. Story number 9 will be Hyundai and their team for the ultimate mobility vehicle. And by the way, just my aside real quick, why I'm interested in this, Ralph, I don't know if you heard about the news earlier this week, but Hyundai was in talks with purchasing Boston Dynamics from the company that owns them. So
I hadn't heard that.
I thought, wow, what a combination.
Ooh, yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, this does involve Hyundai. So the headline is New Hyundai Team Targets Development of Ultimate Mobility Vehicles. We'll have to paraphrase this very quickly. Comes from the Detroit Bureau. If you have the show notes, you can see these amazing pictures of these. I'll call them like transformer-like vehicles. So cool. And it's coming from their newly created New Horizons studio, and they have the job of developing a lineup of products capable of going places where vehicles have never roamed before. And again, the pictures really make that clear. The South Korean car maker teased this at the 2019 Consumer Electronics Show, and they're continuing their research. With its articulated suspension and fold-out legs, the battery-powered concept vehicle could maneuver across boulder or rubble-strewn terrain to rescue injured skiers or those trapped following an earthquake or other natural disasters. One of the pictures, though, I think, guys, is cool. It shows a taxi, an urban taxi that's able to go up the stairs of a building and pick up a person in a wheelchair. That's
you thought you were
cool.
safe from the cars and not being hit if you're not on the road. The cars will hit you in your own apartment now.
Yeah. So the legs can fold out to give the Elevate is the name of the vehicle, significantly more ground clearance. The jointed construction will allow it to walk, not just roll over rough terrain. Walk. Weird. When the prototype's articulated suspension is not needed, it can be folded back up or tucked away to enable traditional on-road car-like use. So what a great story, guys. I mean, salute to these folks working on this kind of stuff. How clever is this?
For sure, for sure. Yeah, and by the way, Boston Dynamics is owned currently by SoftBank. SoftBank also makes a lot of technology, including microchips and things like that. And yeah, Hyundai and SoftBank are reportedly in talks. It could fall through, nothing finalized, but clearly, we always think of Japan as like the go-to place for robotics, and it looks like South Korea is really gearing up to try to bring that around as well. So everyone, music means that we are done. I want to thank everyone for joining us here on the show. Ralph, Carissa, of course, everyone out there in the chat room, and everyone out there listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Friday the 13th, everyone, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Tune in next week. We have more Computer America. And hey, until then, Ralph, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right. And of course, Carissa, you are due back here next Monday, and everyone else, you are too. Thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next time. Bye, everyone.
See ya.